The 16th century, a small European village, quietly coming apart. The fields were dry. The earth had taken back everything it once promised. An invisible sickness, something without a name, had crept into the homes, leaving behind only hollow eyes and grief. Despair clung to the cobblestones like a fog that never lifted, and in every shadow, the villagers saw their own end. Fear was no longer a feeling, it was the air they breathed. And into that stepped Magistrate Thorn. His voice cut clean through the murmurs of the desperate. He stood before the gathered crowd, his face a carefully worn mask of grave concern. He did not speak of failed harvests, not of natural plague. He spoke of something far darker. He pointed to the blighted crops, the fevered faces, and he gave their suffering a name: witchcraft. His words fell like a spark on dry tinder. The crowd's scattered fear collapsed into a single flame. They needed a target, a face to hold their misery, and Thorn was ready to provide one. The mob's fury found its focus. Elara, an elderly woman who had lived at the edge of the village for years. Her hands, gnarled by time, had gathered herbs from the woods. She was a healer, her knowledge passed down through generations. Those with fevers came to her, quietly, without ceremony. But in this newly charged air, her solitude was read as secrecy, her remedies, dark magic. Incited by Thorn's words, the crowd descended. They came to her small cottage, their cries for justice echoing like a death knell. Elara was dragged from her home. The herbs she had used to heal were now brandished as proof of wickedness. The trial that followed was a mockery of justice, swift, brutal, held in the village square with Thorn presiding. It was not an inquiry, it was a performance. Elara, frail but resolute, faced her accusers. When they demanded to know the source of her knowledge, she spoke of the earth, of roots and leaves, of the wisdom of her grandmother. But her words were twisted. Her poultice for a fever became a curse to cause one. Her tea for peaceful sleep became a potion to ensnare a soul. Every explanation contorted, every piece of her life's work reframed, as evidence of a pact with the devil. The verdict was inevitable, written in the faces of the jurors long before Elara ever spoke a word. She was found guilty. Her conviction, a chilling testament to the powerlessness of the innocent against a tide of manufactured hysteria. In the quiet aftermath, the true motive began to surface. Magistrate Thorn, the supposed guardian of order, was seen overseeing the seizure of Elara's property, her small plot of land, her cottage, the few possessions within, all absorbed into the magistrate's own holdings. The final, chilling truth became clear. The witch hunt was never about witchcraft. It was a calculated strategy, a brutal tool, wielded by the powerful in times of crisis. By directing the public's fear toward a scapegoat, men like Thorn could do more than silence dissent. They could solidify their authority, enrich themselves, seizing wealth from the most vulnerable, under the guise of cleansing the community of evil. The story of Elara is a stark reminder that throughout history, the accusation of witchcraft was often a cover for greed, for control, for the ruthless exploitation of social unrest. Thank you for watching. If you found this exploration of history valuable, consider leaving a like and subscribing for more.